Hello, Animation Fanatic here. Okay, last review of the night because it's really late and I'm really tired and I don't really have time to watch Legend of Korra tonight, so maybe that'll have to be tomorrow or even next week. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. My computer sucks. But anyway, the show must go on, and I did watch this one thing last week. Surprise! The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TMNT 2012 are finally back. I know this was only a little over a month of waiting, but my gosh, it seemed like forever. As I've said before, the first season ended on a very triumphant note. It ended on a very as a first season usually does, with the exception of Beast Wars. Keep that in mind. But it ended on a fairly triumphant note, and it was a very good season finale. I can't help but compare it to Transformers Prime, as I've compared the shows before actually, in regards to their attitude towards death and the killing of people in them. But I think the biggest comparison and the most obvious one really is how the season finales compare. Transformers Prime was ending itself. It was ending with the last episode and the movie Predacons Rising. Okay, this was the denouement of this long-running series, and this was supposed to be go out with a bang, go out with a shout, and it just seemed not to quite do it. Turtles went out with a shout. Turtles went out with a bang. Turtles went out with everything. And while the episodes weren't perfect, they were still good. And it's amazing that it was actually a more effective conclusion for this season than Transformers Prime had for a whole series. And it's amazing that a show that had its whole life ahead of it, that has its whole life ahead of it, could have a better ending than a show that was supposed to be finishing, that was supposed to be concluding, and that was supposed to be saying goodbye to everybody. And that's just amazing. Or like I said, even if Turtles had never aired another episode after that, it still would have been more or less satisfying, with the exception of the Krang and Shredder still being, alive and around. But it would have been more or less satisfying. But that leads us into our first episode of the second season. So let's, again, as always, let's not waste any time and dive right into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Season 2, Episode 1. Now, this episode starts out, and we're not told specifically how long. I'm guessing it's a couple of weeks, maybe a few months, possibly. But not too long after the events of the last season. The Turtles are still celebrating their victory and still reveling in it, and they go to visit April. April tells them that her dad's been really paranoid, not letting her out. He's still afraid of the Krang. The Turtles are pretty overconfident, all things considered. They think they've completely wasted the Krang, although it's pointed out to them, I forget if it's by Donnie or Leonardo or Splinter, or maybe all three, that Shredder is still around, and although they don't seem to think of the Krang as being still around. Interesting enough. Anyway, they get back to their lair, and Splinter actually accosts them for being lazy and for getting too cocky, which Leonardo agrees with, although Michelangelo and Raph are a little more skeptical. Now, this is one thing that a little problem I have with the show sometimes, and I'm going to get into this more in detail, but the thing is, every episode, or a lot of them at least, have to have a lesson, or a future lesson to apply. And a lot of those lessons, not a lot of them, but some of them, seem a little bit tacked on, as if the show's like, oh, we have to have a lesson in this show, so let's tack something on to the show. Let's tack on this plot point that sort of wasn't there, was only kind of partially there. And this whole cockiness thing comes back to bite them later in the show, and it's like, gosh, Splinter, you're calling them lazy. They saved the world, and you weren't even going to go out and fight. You only went out and fought at the last minute, and you did a good job. You fought and defeated Shredder. Actually, you beat the Foot Clan, which is interesting because, as I've said before, the Turtles, it's usually the Foot Clan which is their arch nemesis, but for the last season it was the Foot Clan were really were not really Splinter's nemesis. Shredder was Splinter's nemesis. Krang was the Turtles' nemesis. So sort of a parallel there. But I'm going in a completely different direction. Let me get back to the main plot here. So anyway, the turtles find out that the Krang are going to try using a Krang piece of equipment. Find out that the Krang are active again. The Krang are trying to send a shipment of ooze to the Shredder. I'm guessing so he can make more mutants or something else. The Shredder still seems to have an alliance with the Krang, or rather, he's trying to control them. I'm not sure. He still ends up being a badass in this, even though he doesn't do anything. It's funny. Oh, by the way, Karai does make an appearance, but I don't think she says anything. So yeah, if you're a Karai fan. But anyway, the turtles go to intercept them and get to show off their one of their new vehicles, which is sort of a rocket, and their flying apparatus, which is still really cool from the last one. They attack the Krang and they get into a big fight. The Krang have sort of a gorilla robot body that they use to fight them. And while this is all funny, this brings me to kind of my least favorite part of the whole episode, which is the butt cannons. Um, it's really stupid. I don't even have to say anything more about it. All I can say is, yeah, it's butt cannons. What are you gonna do? But to be fair, this is a show that's trying to aim to a very broad audience, kind of like Transformers Animated, older fans, newer fans, younger fans, older fans. So they have to insert a joke like that every once in a while. Don't beat yourselves up about it. It's got to be there. Actually, this episode is pretty funny. It's got a lot of good gags and it got a lot of good jokes. Although oddly enough, they seem to have written the turtles better than the parts with April and her dad. And near the beginning, Leo just walks in and says, "You've been avoiding us, April." They just throw that out there. It's like, jeez, you didn't even give us a minute to adjust to you being here again. Now you're throwing all this at us. But anyway, some of the ooze ends up spilling out, kind of thanks to Donnie and Mikey, and well, Donnie blames Raph, but yeah, it's Donnie and Mikey's fault. Anyway, the ooze spills out, falling all over the city. And when I say all over the city, I mean all over the city. It falls towards Mr. O'Neill and April, who are trying to help the turtles, although Mr. O'Neill didn't know about it. And it's about to land on April, which would have been pretty cool, because we know she can't be affected by acid in a previous episode, but it would be cool to see what kind of mutation she might be, or whatever. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Are they going to... Is she going to be the female turtle? That would be weird. Honestly, that would be weird. We're apparently going to get more answers about April and why the Krang wanted her so much in this season. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But anyway, it falls on her dad, who then falls off the roof and runs into some bats. Wow, I wonder what's going to happen next. Is he going to turn into a bat? If you guess no, you're an idiot. He does turn into a weird mutant bat. And the rest of the episode is chasing him to try to corner him. They eventually manage to catch him, but he gets free again. And Michelangelo and his big mouth end up telling April that it was them who spilled all the ooze. April gets really mad at them, as to be expected, although, again, a touch ungrateful. Oh yeah, by the way, she uses her fan in this, which is kind of cool, but very brief. She gets very mad at them and eventually walks away from them, saying that she never wants to see them again. Donnie, of course, is pretty heartbroken. Raph, actually in a rare moment of kindness and I won't say intelligence, but just wisdom and foresight, tells him to leave her alone and give her some space. Anyway, they return back to the lair. Splinter says not to worry too much about this, but to prepare for whatever's going to happen next. Shredder finishes out the episode saying that the Krang are useless and that he needs more soldiers. He needs to prepare for this. I wonder if he's going to use the Foot Clan robots. That would be really cool. And now we have our main setup for this episode. The ooze is all over the city. Already at the end of the episode, a squirrel gets into the stuff. Who knows what kind of people, animals, etc., are going to get into this stuff. Who knows what's going to happen. And so we have our setup for the episode. What did I think of this episode, though? It was very good. It was pretty good. Not my favorite, but it was still funny. It had some decent enough action, and it was a setup episode mostly. This is not when stuff starts happening. This is setup. This sets up the conflict, sets up the issues, sets up what we're going to be dealing with in this season. Hopefully we won't have too many filler episodes because I want to have this clipping along. Good thing about the Legend of Korra, no filler. Just keep stuff running. Well, some filler, but not too much. Other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's got filler episodes. But we'll see what happens here. The Turtles are unfortunately left in sort of a bad straits with April, and that ties in, I think, a little bit to Casey Jones. In a lot of his trailers and other things, he's heard saying that he wants to drive out the mutant infestation. And that might connect with him and April being friends, because April's not going to be too hot on mutants now that her dad is not only one, but that the Turtles, mutants themselves, are responsible for that, or at least partly responsible. When it all boils down to this is the Krang's fault. Don't be too hard on them, April. But anyway, the point is, we've got a good setup for the whole series, whole season. We've got an effective episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else is going to happen in this entire season. I look forward to seeing the new characters. I hear the Mutagen Band, who makes a cameo appearance, is going to play a bigger role. Don't know what I think about that. Like I said, we're going to see Casey Jones, we're going to see other new characters, we're going to see a crossover with the old 87 Turtles, and with the original voices. So maybe this season and its special 1-hour episode can succeed where Turtles Forever could not succeed. Now, I like Turtles Forever, but I know people had problems with it. So maybe this can succeed where that failed. Who knows? Like I said, I look forward to this whole season. I look forward to seeing things. I look forward to seeing more of the Technodrome. I hope Rocksteady and Bebop show up in this show. I look forward to seeing, I think I heard something about Slash showing up. I don't know if that's going to be Raphael's pet turtle or not. I look forward to everything. I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for this show. I'm excited for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And if they keep going as they've been going, hopefully they won't repeat the mistakes of the previous Turtle seasons, which always kind of pattered off after a while, time travel and mutations and whatnots. But like I said, I'm eager to see everything, and I can't wait for next week's episode. I can't wait for the rest of this series.